Hello. Good to see everybody. So I'm back. It's 3:30. I'm getting my times a little bit worked out because 4 hasn't worked every time and 3 also is a little rough. So here I am. It's 3:30 and hopefully people are able to catch up with me today. And the topic I have for today is 100 unique and low cost holiday gift ideas for Gen X. And the reason I have this is because um, there's so much fun nostalgia that is out there that is low cost, that can be really cheap, for Gen Xers. And so, whether you are Gen X or there's somebody in your life who's Gen X, some of these might be kind of fun. So, here's some nostalgic ideas, and maybe you have some also that you could share. I'm happy to share any that anybody else has as well. So, um, make a retro mixtape playlist. Now that does not have to be on a tape. That could be, on any kind of playlist. Like I will have my kids make me playlists that are on Spotify. And so, you can have you can make one of those with 80s or 90s or any kind of retro music and give that as a gift to somebody. So that is always exciting for people. You can also make a playlist like that you can use for holiday get-togethers, and that is also something fun that people always love. Um, an 80s or 90s trivia card set. So that could be like, an old card game like Trivial Pursuit, something like that, where it has 80s or 90s cards in it. They have other games that have 80s and 90s trivia cards. So check out some of those. That can be a lot of fun, especially if you're going to get together with people over the holidays and you want to do some fun things that maybe are going to let other people know about what it was like to be a Gen Xer who are younger, or to remind the Gen Xers of some of the fun that they had. A mini lava lamp is number 3. Now, I got one of these for my mother-in-law and she loved it. She's not a Gen Xer, but she loved it. So you can get one of those. They sell those all over the place, and they're a lot of fun to give. A Rubik's Cube or retro puzzle. So those can be a lot of fun. That's something that when people, um, hey, Eshbar, good to see you on here. So if you get one of those, it's also something, some of these, the really exciting part of it is that there are things that can be shared with others. So if you are having people over, or if you're going somewhere where there's going to be a group and you bring out a Rubik's Cube or a retro puzzle, everybody's going to want to play it. So it's not just a gift that you're giving to somebody, it's one that everybody can use. A vintage candy assortment. That is a really wonderful gift to give because everybody loves candy. And if you go and you get some of the vintage candy assortments, you can get those on Amazon. I mean, there's some stores that carry some of the vintage candies. You can even make some of the vintage candies. I know grew up in the Midwest, and there was all kinds of candies that we had, like Divinity. I don't know if anybody still eats that. There were all kinds of things like the no-bake cookies. There were all kinds of things like the mints that we all had. There were like little ones that were in a that you'd have out for people that came to visit. I don't even know what they were called, but so you can even make them if you don't want to buy them. And they have recipes for those all over the place. Another fun idea would be to print out an 80s or 90s concert poster recreation. That would be a fun one to do also. You can even have it framed if you wanted, but those are fun things to do. And you can also they have like fun, retro things that you can get for people, like a cassette-style AirPod case, things like that would remind somebody of the good old days. What about, there's another kind of fun one, which would be like a burned CD. If you have or could find any of the old CDs, That would be a fun one to use. I know that there were some places that used to make coasters and things like that out of CDs. So that's another idea if you can find one of those. I bet they'd have that on Etsy. A retro arcade game keychain. Hey, Soleil Lens, good to see you here. Check out his site. He's amazing. So a retro arcade game keychain is a fun one, something that you can use, take around, always remember. An old time notebook. So if you wanted to let somebody journal, what about one of those like old black and white marbled journals that you can use, things like that. Get vintage TV show magnets, things like Friends, Seinfeld, any of the old shows that everybody used to like. Hi, I see you there, Kyle and Christiane. What about, you can also get like the scrunchies, the hair scrunchies, those, they're starting to sell those again. So that's something that's very inexpensive and easy to get for people. You can also get retro video game coasters. Any kind of coaster that you could get that would be something retro is also pretty amazing. Another fun thing is to get old school Polaroid-style photo prints of a memory. You can get those on anything nowadays, like pillows, blankets, and they're pretty cheap. You can get those on, yeah, I have 103 for the person who asked. I think that was Eshbar. And you can also get a mug that has one of those printed. You can do those yourself. They have, you can make that with Cricut. You can go to the library and have that made. If you have a makerspace in your library, you can buy them pretty cheap. So those are some of the nostalgia gifts that are really kind of fun that you can give. In terms of what people might want while they're Gen Xers in the age range that they're in right now, a phone stand for the desk or nightstand. I have one. I don't see. Yeah, I have one. It's kind of cool. I have this right here. It opens up. Mine is sold by Apple, and it has like a wallet, and it has, stuff like that, and it has the ability to stand. So your phone can stand up. That's awesome for a Gen Xer because it allows them to have a lot of mobility with their phone that they normally don't have. Any kind of a picture frame, and I only follow 47. It's the other way around. And you could get any kind of decorative sign for a Gen Xer, a mini wall calendar. Gen Xers grew up with calendars, like actual calendars that they hung on the wall. So you can make those, and that's sometimes fun to make, not for the calendar purpose, but you can put the person's birthday on the month, a picture of that person on the month for the calendar, and you get it for them. And they have mini ones, and you can just have that, and that's for nostalgia purposes. Gen Xers like coasters. They just love them. So that's always something you can get. You can put anything you want on it, but they love coasters. And a microwave popcorn bowl, that's totally Gen X. You know what else Gen Xers like is the air popper popcorn maker. That's another one. You can get any kind of a table runner. Gen Xers love table runners. A doormat, something that says something cute and Gen X-y on it. Gen Xers also like mason jars. So you can get mason jars for Gen Xers. You can put all kinds of stuff in it, like hot chocolate mix or whatever you want. A felt letterboard, that's another thing that is very nostalgic for Gen Xers. You can get one of those. I hope that these are ideas that they're meant to be very low price, just to really spark some nostalgia for somebody who's a Gen Xer. It's also a good conversation starter. So if you're getting somebody something that has meaning to them, you're able to ask them, what was it like, back when you didn't have a cell phone, or when you didn't have a remote control, or things like that. It's conversation starter in many ways. A lot of Gen Xers were around when the microwave first came around. So they had popcorn before microwaves. So you can talk about all that stuff with them. So if you're thinking about music, music is always a good thing. Everybody loves music. So some of the things that you can get are vinyl style drink coasters. Some people really like vinyl records are also with their favorite artists from the day. So you can even go and get the actual vinyl record. And some people like to frame them. Some people like to just have them as a memory. So, that put it on a bookshelf or something like that. But there's a lot that you can do with that. And it's a really inexpensive way to bring nostalgia into the holidays. And it gets people talking too. So another thing that you can do is do something like get a band logo and put it on something. So you could put that, a retro band logo, put that on a t-shirt, put that on a mug, put that on a coaster, since Gen Xers love coasters. You could do a coaster and a cup or something like that. But those are things that you can put together, very low price, but very much something that would make a person feel like they're able to take a step back in time. A Bluetooth mini speaker is always a nice thing to get. A retro band tee, you can get those at thrift stores. So if you like thrifting, you can go to a thrift store and get a pretty inexpensive retro band tee. And that sometimes people do interesting things with those retro band tees. Like they can make those into something like a pillow, or they might just want to wear the band tee, or you can do something else with it, make something like a bag out of it. People do all kinds of things. They frame them. Lots that you can do with that. Very inexpensive. Hit the thrift store. You're going to find a lot of retro stuff that you might be able to get that's going to be $10 and under. Any kind of a music themed ornament. And I would say make that retro. And another kind of cool thing is I know that, if you're going to make like for Christmas an ornament, and they have those balls, balls that you hang on the tree, you can take something retro and just cover that with it. And that makes for a really interesting, something that you can add to a gift in the wrapping, or you might be able to even just put that on the tree, something like that that you can give that's very special and doesn't cost a lot. You can get a poster of their favorite album cover, or somebody that they thought was, one of their crushes, or a boy band from the 80s or 90s. A guitar pick set, even if they don't play, it could be interesting. And those are some of the fun things that people like to do with those. But also some practical things are a cable organizer clip, pretty cheap. Pretty much every Gen Xer has a ton of cables, a lot of wires all over the place. Reusable shopping bags that has a retro print on it. A mini sewing repair kit. Look, every single Gen Xer had a parent or somebody in their life who had a sewing kit, and it was usually in a box that was like a cookie tin or something like that. But you could get a mini sewing repair kit just to feel retro about it. A stainless steel water bottle, a little pocket-sized screwdriver set. I know that was always like the dad gift to give to somebody, was one of those pocket-sized screwdriver sets. A car visor organizer. I think that Gen Xers like that kind of stuff. That would be a fun thing. A magnetic fridge notepad. A portable pill case. Now, Gen Xers are probably taking some medications, so it might be a really good thing to get a portable pill case for them. Another fun one is to get just a really inexpensive gift card to a coffee shop. So, we're talking right now, for anybody who's just popping in, we're talking about gifts for Gen X. that are inexpensive. So you don't have to be Gen X, but you might be getting something for somebody who's Gen X. And some of these gifts are easy. They're fun things to give when you're going to a holiday gathering because everybody can engage with it. Or you can just give them as the regular gift, or it might be like a stocking stuffer or something like that. So, um, uh, travel pouch for chargers. I can tell you that every time I get into, I'm a Gen Xer, but every time I get into a Gen Xer car, there's junk all over. Like when I mean junk, like chargers and things. Get a little pouch for that, for all the chargers. Get a key finder. Very important. Very good one. Hand warmer packs. They sell those at like Costco, the little hand warmer packs. You get an emergency mini flashlight. You can usually get those that go on a person's keychain. Somehow people like those, even though there's one on the cell phone. But just another idea. Get gourmet popcorn seasoning sampler. You know, Gen Xers grew up eating popcorn, and so having options for the popcorn is always a good idea. A DIY hot chocolate kit. I've made these. I've given these. People love them. Where you make the ingredients for the hot chocolate and you put it in a container and give it. People love that. A coffee sampler, a tea sampler, a hot sauce trio. I just went someplace and I bought these for people that we were visiting for Thanksgiving. It was a tiny thing. It was a whole bunch, a whole sampler of teeny tiny hot sauces. And that's always fun to give. Honey, give a honey jar or, different samplings of honey, a homemade spice blend, a flavored olive oil, dried fruit and nuts, those kinds of things. A lot of people make the candied orange peel and they might dip it in chocolate. That's another one. A holiday cookie tin. There are so many people that I know that give out, they do holiday cookie baking and they send it out to people. They might put it in the box even and ship it across the country, whatever they're doing. But that is always loved. So you get your family, recipes for your cookies. You make a sampler package and you give it out to people. Everybody always loves that around the holidays and all the different holiday cookies that your family is used to making. There are some funny things that you can do, calling out a person for being Gen X, like getting a Gen X mug or something that says Gen X on it. And if Boomer, you could get Boomer, whatever you wanted. Get something that says MTV on it. People grew up on MTV. MTV was like the same as doom scrolling nowadays. People used to just sit on MTV for hours. Bookmarks. Gen Xers read. So get a bookmark. And okay, hold on. I need to remove somebody. Hang on a second. I'm having a little bit of trouble removing somebody here. Aha, there we go. Okay. Done. Okay, so you can also get a sleep mask. Gen Xers oftentimes have a hard time sleeping. Any kind of Gen X humor on things, that's always going to be a good one. Themed socks. Everybody loves socks. And get something with a 70s or 80s or 90s theme. And something that was big back then were those stress relief squishy toys. So if you get one of those, people will remember it. They had it in all kinds of different things. They had the stress ball, they had the stress brain, and you would squish it and it was put on your desk so that when you felt stressed, you would squish it. You can get all kinds of the cozy fuzzy socks. And if you're able to find them, the thing that was popular in the 80s were those socks that squished down. They were really big. And so it was like a regular sock. And then the big part of it scrunched down. I don't remember what they were called, but That would be a fun one to get. I don't know where you'd find them, but I bet they have them on Amazon. You could get leg warmers too. That would be a very retro gift to give that's kind of cozy and part of the self-care thing. Mini essential oils, that's another good one. Bath bomb, variety pack, hand cream, an eye mask, herbal tea that's good for sleep, Epsom salt. Every Gen Xer grew up with Epsom salt. A lip balm set, any kind of foot soap crystals, scented candles. You can even look for some nostalgic scents and things like that that might get a person to remember some of the things from back in the day. One of the flavors that was a big one was like butterscotch, things like that. So everybody loves, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people really appreciate things like homemade infused sugars or salts. Anything homemade makes a person feel like you put your heart into it. So any kind of a DIY photo ornament. I used to give gifts of my kids to people, photo gifts, because to my in-laws, you can't say no to that. You can't not like that if you're a grandparent. A hand painted anything like a mug, embroidered initials on something. There's all kinds of embroidery stuff that's out there nowadays. Uh, Homemade granola, people like that. I've seen so many videos on making some of these homemade things, and people really like it. You can put it in a tin, you can put it in a jar, whatever you want. You can also make, this is such a good one, is a scrapbook style mini memory book. We all have our pictures on our phones, and Gen Xers didn't grow up with that. They grew up with having photo albums. You can make a teeny tiny photo album, and you can do that. There are online places that do it. You can do it yourself. But those are really good things to give. A personalized sort of coupon book that you can give to somebody. Terrarium jar. Everybody in the 70s had a terrarium jar and early 80s in their house. A hand poured candle. There are so many tutorials on how to do that. So inexpensive. Everybody likes a candle. A knitted scarf or hat. They have those looms that you can get that are pretty cheap. So you can make your own knitted hat or scarf. That's pretty easy to do. So you could do that or buy one on Etsy. You can get a book from the thrift store and put a handwritten note on it and give that. A pocket notebook for journaling. I actually got made fun of by my students. The last class I taught, I got made fun of because I have a teeny tiny, let's see if I have it here. I have a teeny tiny, like very slim, it was the kind we had when I grew up, a little tiny notebook, and I had my notes and I pulled it out and they started laughing at me. So, so that would be a good gift for a Gen Xer. Crossword puzzle books. Those are really inexpensive, easy to get. You could probably even get them at the dollar store. Easy. People love those. A retro comic book. This is something that a lot of people grew up reading comic books and they like to look at them. So that's another idea. Taking old magazine covers and, like Time or Rolling Stone or something like that, and making a, you can make anything out of that. You can frame it, do whatever you want with that. But that's kind of an interesting one. You can create a mini photo book for people. You can take the photos that are in your actual phone and turn that into a mini book and give that out. I've done that when I've gone to visit people and, we did fun activities. I take the pictures from all those activities and I have it made into a mini book, and everybody always likes that. It keeps the memories there for good. An audiobook credit. Maybe somebody really likes audiobooks and you can give them a credit. Yeah, that could be $10, not a big expense. A nostalgic DVD of a favorite show or a favorite movie. Just the idea that, oh, thank you. Just the idea of getting that they may not have a DVD anymore, but seeing that could bring back a real nostalgic feeling. Um, get a book from a local author and have them sign it for the person. You know what else would be kind of a cool thing is the person can give a shout out to somebody. They have some of those that are done professionally, but you could ask somebody to do it at a specific time on social media and make a certain shout out for somebody. Um, a small succulent or a house plant. You can get a minimalist picture frame. You can get, let's see, what else is here? I think that's pretty much everything that's on here on this list that I was looking at. But I'll tell you some of the best things that most people really enjoy are things that you thought about, something that you took more than just going and, hitting a store and buying it. And Gen Xers love anything that brings them back to the days of, their childhood. So if you're buying for someone who's Gen X, I hope some of these things that are on the list are helpful. If you are yourself a Gen Xer and you want to get another Gen Xer a gift, some of these are just some ideas to spark your memory to bring you back to those days. So, if you have anything that you'd like to share that can remember from the good old days, give a reminder. I'd love to hear it. So, I'm just trying to think of some of the wild and crazy, things that we don't have anymore. But I think I covered most of them. I'm just trying to think. I think I covered most of them. Oh, an 8-track tape. I didn't mention that. I don't know anybody here. One of my first cars had an 8-track player in it. And so I remember I had 8-track tapes for a while. And those are fun. You can sometimes find those around. That's a fun thing to get. But I hope this was helpful. I hope the holiday season is not stressful and that some of this stuff is useful so that you can find something that might be interesting for somebody who's a Gen Xer in your life that they would appreciate and that doesn't break the bank for you. So have a great day and I'll see you tomorrow.